Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Merci de nous avoir joindre. Welcome to the Federation for the Humanities and Social Sciences webinar on the effective use of social media for associations. Juste à noter, la session se déroulera en anglais, mais vous pouvez poser vos questions dans les deux langues. Let's begin with today's agenda. After a bit of housekeeping, I'll introduce the two speakers. They'll aim to speak for a total of about 30 minutes, covering strategies in use, platforms used, lessons learned in measuring and adjusting, preparing a campaign, and then gearing up for Congress. We'll wrap up with a Q&A session for which we'll reserve 15 minutes at the end. And there'll be a few quick polls in our session today, so we invite you to participate in those. In terms of housekeeping, you may submit questions as we go. Use the question box on your screen. Submit them at any time and we'll hold them for the Q&A. Use the orange arrows to open or close this box. And go to the website ideaside.ca/webinars for troubleshooting to see our technical FAQs if you need help. We'll post the slides to our website after the event and we'll post the video next week. So on to introductions. My name is Nicola Katz and I'm the Manager of Communications here at the Federation. I'll be your moderator and one of the speakers today. I've been at the Federation for 4 years and I work with a team of 2 other staff in our communications work. And I'm joined today by Michel Duquet, Executive Director of the Canadian Historical Association. Michel has been with CHA since 2008 and holds history degrees from the University of Toronto, where he obtained his Honours BA and MA, and the University of Ottawa, where he completed his PhD. And he single-handedly manages CHA communications. The Federation is keen to find ways to enable peer-to-peer learning across our membership and running these webinars on topics of interest to scholarly associations. A survey will come to you after the webinar, and it's your chance to let us know if we hit the mark. So I'll begin, and then I'll turn the mic over to Michel. But before I begin, let's do a quick poll right now to find out a bit more about the audience. The question is, which social media networks does your association use in communicating with its members? Select as many as apply to your association. I'll give you a moment to fill that in. And we'll tally the results. Very nice. I see lots of people across all of the platforms listed and some other. Nice. So we have an experienced audience here today. So I'll move right on to the Federation's social media strategy. Social media is key for us, and I'll tell you why. It allows us to communicate with audiences on the platforms that they prefer. We serve over 90,000 scholars, and we certainly know that our site is not bookmarked in all their browsers. So we have to think beyond our website to reach them. People now fully expect to see news come to them through a variety of channels. If we don't communicate in these new and dynamic ways, they simply won't see our news at all. Using social media allows us to control timing like never before. We can control tweets, we can schedule tweets, and we know when our audiences are online. If we're tweeting to students, we can avoid weekend mornings. If we're tweeting out a detailed report, we'll avoid the commuting hours. Some platforms help us with language preferences. Facebook, for example, allows you to specify target audience by a language of preference. So we can publish in both languages, but our post is actually only seen in the language preferred by each individual. Another benefit of social media is that it makes up for some of the loss of communication access resulting from Canada's anti-spam legislation, or CASL. Our email lists were impacted, as I'm sure yours were as well. Social media allows us to continue to engage with contacts that we may have lost, and in some cases secure the express permission we need to keep them on their mailing lists. A new strategy for us has been the use of ad buys in Twitter and Facebook. These platforms present themselves as free, but in reality they are for-profit businesses, and they're geared to privilege posts that are promoted with ad buys. We tried this out at Congress last year, and we found that posts for which we had ad buys received 4 to 5 times as many views. And finally, it's important to remain realistic about resources. We have found that we're better off doing less, but well, than when we try to do too much. Beyond our website, the Federation is active on 4 social channels at this time. Each channel has different objectives, is used with a different frequency, and has differing language preference options. So I'll run through each of them. First, there's Twitter. On a day-to-day basis, our objective is to initiate and build buzz around important issues for our sector. We tweet out new Federation materials that will be of interest to our followers, usually driving them to our website for more information and detail. And we retweet material that is of interest to our community, issues that matter and that we want to ensure get coverage from a number of angles. We're active on Twitter every day, to a smaller extent on weekends, and we try to tweet or retweet at least 5 times per day on weekdays. We currently maintain just 1 Twitter account and tweet in both languages. Larger organizations tend to have language-specific accounts, and this is actually a better practice. On Facebook, our objectives are to push out Federation work and new developments. On this platform, we don't necessarily drive them back to our website, but rather provide what they need right there and allow them to stay in their Facebook feed. We post to Facebook no more than 5 times a week. And as I mentioned earlier, we can set our posts only to go to audiences who have identified English or French as their preferred languages. That way we can maintain just 1 Facebook page, but our material is viewed in the language of preference. On to LinkedIn. LinkedIn we reserve for our most serious posts. These are audiences that do not want to be contacted too frequently. The material we post there is typically our earned media, such as op-eds and letters to the editor in mainstream media, stories where our executives are weighing in on important issues in the sector. We post to LinkedIn no more than 2 to 4 times per month, and we currently maintain just 1 LinkedIn account, and we post in both languages. On YouTube, that's the red square, we post about 20 to 25 videos per year, approximately 10 Big Thinking on the Hill and on the road, approximately 10 more events at Congress, and recently these webinars. We always post to YouTube first and then embed the video on our website. When we do our analytics, we can track from both locations in the YouTube analytics. If we also post to Facebook, we have to track those metrics separately. Statistics show that video length should be short, ideally 15 minutes. 30 minutes is pushing it. 60 minutes is really very long. Those are good numbers to keep in mind. Now I'd like to move on to metrics and making real-time adjustments. But let's do a little poll first. Does your association measure its social media efforts with an analytics tool, such as Hootsuite or Google Analytics? Yes, no, or sometimes. We'll give you a moment to fill that in. Tally the results. Okay, I see a real mix here. It does take time, and it can be overwhelming and highly detailed, but metrics are actually essential to knowing if you're reaching the audiences at the right time and with the right information. We check metrics on our posts frequently to see if they're getting viewed or shared. We move the posting times around if we see a need, and we generate quarterly metrics for all of our channels. We identify areas of success and areas for improvement. We revisit those monthly, and when we have an event going on, we'll revisit them daily. We schedule a lot of our social media. At the outset, we guess when our audiences are active, but over time our guesses are confirmed by our metrics, and we begin to know when they are active, and we can build on that knowledge. For Twitter scheduling, we use Hootsuite, which is a social media management tool that allows you to organize and schedule content for all of your social media platforms. Within Hootsuite, we use lists to follow people and organizations. We also use lists to monitor specific issues. For example, if we monitor an issue such as free speech on campus, there are key people and organizations that we may want to listen to. We may not want to follow them because that would lend credibility to their tweets in a way we may not want. But we can see what's happening when we create a list, and if we keep that list private, we can follow it without actually publishing that list using Hootsuite. Many times we rely on allies to amplify our social media work. If we have partners for a specific event, we work social media right into our agreements from the outset. Well in advance, we share handles and hashtags, and sometimes our speakers have more followers than we do, so we ask them to promote. The Federation also has stakeholders that we reach out to year-round. For example, if we're hiring, we ask our counterparts in our stakeholders to amplify the message through their networks. And we've recently experimented with influencer relationship. So in advance of last Congress, we identified individuals with large follower bases, and we asked them if they'd be willing to serve as ambassadors during Congress. Once we had their agreement, we sent them ready-made tweets and posts, which they could cut and paste into their channels, and it worked well for us. Even easier to access are the insiders right inside our organization. Though it is very important to distinguish between staff who have a responsibility to communicate and other staff for whom it should remain optional. With the exception of our executive director, we ask that staff do not list the Federation on their social media accounts. To support good process, we've had a staff training on Twitter, but beyond the communications team, staff's social media involvement remains optional. When preparing for big events, we develop what we call a campaign. We do this for Big Thinking, the Canada Prizes program, or for important advocacy priorities, such as the NAILA report on fundamental science. We begin by developing 3 to 5 key messages. Next, we select visuals and develop a look and feel for the event, or the issue or document. Next, we build a handle and hashtag list, and we share it with anyone who will be tweeting or live tweeting. We usually create an event-specific hashtag. We choose one that's not already in use. We check this in advance so we don't have surprises. Let's do one more poll here on Twitter. Does your association use Twitter handles and hashtags to join conversations and receive updates when attending an event? Always, usually, occasionally, or never. We'll take a moment and then tally the results. Okay, we see most of you are actively using, and it's mainly usually or occasionally. Okay, good to know. Next, we build a social media plan where we consider all of our channels and what we're posting on which channel, assigning responsibilities to individual people. We then prepare shortened links using Hootsuite, and we size our images for all the platforms we're going to use. We schedule tweets well in advance of the event. That's a good time to get buy-in from anyone who may be working as an ambassador. It's also a good time to direct message a speaker who has a good following but is not tweeting yet. And it's a good time to repurpose or reuse older material on a similar topic by similar speakers or from a similar previous event. We try to live tweet our events, or at the very least retweet others who are there. If we can't be there, we sometimes find a volunteer. If we do use a volunteer, we use the corporate account to introduce that person, but we ask them to tweet as themselves from their own account, and then we retweet them. And we try not to forget about post-event promotion, especially if there's video material. I'll give you some stats in just a moment, but video has a very nice long lifespan. So create this content, use it, and then reuse it again for maximum effect. Now let's take a look at planning for Congress. We begin with high-level messaging about that event. We present Congress as a whole rather than as many parts. We build messages about it being an important moment for Canada, a meeting of the minds focusing on the future of Canadians. We build a comprehensive list of all handles and hashtags that we know. We use it ourselves, we use it with media, we share it with the host university and others. We gather handles for all of our associations, all of our speakers, all host university executives, departments, publications, etc. We also gather hashtags for major issues that we think will be top of mind at the event. We focus our efforts on the one hashtag, which is hashtag Congress. Although for Regina, we did develop a special one, hashtag See You in Regina. And you'll notice that we use capitalization to help with its readability, although Twitter is doesn't care whether you use capitalization or not. It works with and without. We do quite a bit of bulk scheduling of logistical tweets, which involves using a combination of Excel and Hootsuite. We prepare mini campaigns for events during the week of Congress, and we do this for things like Canada Prizes, or if we have a VIP or minister attending an event. Getting this set up in advance is critical to help us stay on top of things on site. We develop a blog plan that begins 5 to 6 months in advance of the event, slowly releasing programming and trip planning stories to build excitement. At least 1 month prior to the event, we identify and reach out to the influencers or ambassadors that I've mentioned already. We begin to feed them material, and we interact with them on a weekly basis until Congress is over. We typically hire 2 to 3 tweeters and 2 to 3 bloggers for the week, and we run a 1-hour training session 1 day prior to the event for them. A Federation staff member monitors our Twitter at all times during the event. In our retweets, we focus on quality over quantity. We, as I mentioned before, now use ad buys to boost our most important material. We can do this on the fly, and we look at our results every day, making adjustments as needed. We keep a close eye on traditional media pickup of Congress stories. We do a lot of pitching and coordinating during that event, and we track and promote any stories that run in print, online, on radio, or on TV. And after Congress, we produce a metrics report that is really key for us in planning for our next Congress. Let's just take a quick look at what we do to mitigate risk. We're vigilant with our hashtag. We socialize it well in advance of Congress. We don't change it year over year, and we tweet at anyone trying to modify it. If an issue arises, we monitor it closely. This could be something as simple as a street closure that's slowing traffic, or it could be something more delicate, such as complaints that a specific event has been disrespectful. This is an occasion when a private list in Hootsuite can come in handy. We have a crisis communications plan in place for issues such as a lockdown, an on-campus fire, a protest. And we have pre-written tweets ready in both languages for various scenarios that will help us in those situations. And finally, we try to be ready for cyber pirates. If a hashtag gets very popular, this can be an issue on Twitter. It's a good idea to notify Twitter of your event in advance. And if you're attacked by any inappropriate messaging or spam, you can begin reporting the tweets right away to Twitter. You can ask your ambassadors to report as well, and you can have those instructions for them ready in advance. We do not block unwanted tweeters, as then we simply cannot see their material coming in, but our followers still can. And we restrict our Twitter activity to substantive retweets, and that may make our metrics a little lower, but that also keeps us under the radar of cyber trolls. I'm going to wrap up with an interesting set of stats. Content on different platforms has differing lifespans. Tweets have the shortest lifespan of just 18 minutes. Facebook posts last about 5 hours. Instagram we did not talk about, but they last just under 24 hours. And LinkedIn has a 24-hour lifespan. Then we make a very big jump to YouTube, which has a 20-day lifespan. We actually have some videos that are getting views even years after being posted. Pinterest we also did not talk about, but if your association has products that you sell, such as reports or books, this may be something to explore, as these posts have a lifespan of 4 months. And finally, the orange symbol is for blogs, which have a 2-year lifespan. This is huge. You can even enhance your blogs by inserting video, images, posting to multiple social networks, or just updating them to keep them current. So these kinds of stats may actually influence how you allocate your limited resources in your social media planning. And now I turn it over to Michel Duquet of CHA, who will speak to social media work at the association level.
Thank you, Nicola. I want to begin by thanking you, thanking the Federation, and you and Evelyn in particular, for inviting me to take part in this webinar. I think I've learned a lot already from your presentation, and hopefully associations can do the same with mine, given that we don't have, of course, the human resources to elaborate a comprehensive social media strategy as that of the Federation, of course. So who we are, we were founded in 1922, so we are a venerable institution in Canada. We're a national bilingual and not-for-profit organization, and we cater to the needs of professional historians, most of whom work in Canadian universities, but also overseas. And our membership is changing slowly but surely, given that positions within universities are shrinking and historians are finding work outside of academia. The CHA has one full employee who is speaking right now, and we also have a part-time person who looks after the books. So our media strategy began in 2012, given that we had to, of course, respond to the times and membership who are more and more online as the years go by. So the aim, of course, is to increase our membership and acquire new ones, and also to make known what the CHA does in and beyond academia. You would think that an organization who's been around for almost 100 years would be well known amongst historians at least, but it's not the case. A lot of members and historians still think that we are an organization of historians doing Canadian history, but we do much more than that, and we cater to non-Canadianists as well, and so we wanted to make that fact known, and to the public at large, of course, because we do a lot of advocacy work, so that social media is the best form for us to be able to do that. So what we used in terms of social media, well, first I'd like to say that all of our campaigns center around our website. I want everybody who's interested in history to go to our website, because we are much more than a social media presence. Our website has all that's of interest to members and to the public and to the media. It's the place to go. So whenever I post something on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere else, I do include our website link, so that first the people who click on the tweet or the Facebook message go to our website. So all it does is add one click to the user's tasks, and they get to see our website. So I think it works. So all of our communications stem from our website. Twitter is certainly our main means around Congress, and Congress, you know, the CH annual meeting takes place within Congress, so it's the principal activity of the association, and we want to make sure that we get things right at that point. Facebook is also closely tied to our CHA website. And after hearing Nicola's presentation, I think we might be a bit more strategic in terms of using Facebook as opposed to LinkedIn, so to Twitter. So that was good information for me. Now, being online doesn't mean that everything works. We created a Tumblr account, I would say, back in mid-2012, and we wanted to save that venue to post advocacy issues, and we wanted to start conversation on the issues that affect the historical community. And we have found that over the years, we didn't get much traction out of this one. So we abandoned it recently, and we've just created a LinkedIn account. And again, the purpose of that account will be to center focus on advocacy and engage in a dialogue with the community at large. So how do we do to track and measure the impact that our message on social media has? Well, we do like the Federation does. We analytics from Facebook and Twitter, and we've discovered over time that the things that work the most are the things you'd expect. Well, first, we had a post on, or a few posts on the usefulness of a history degree. That pertains to a website that we created, publicizing and the advantages of having a history degree. You know, because historians can do other things than history. The skills that we learn during a history degree can serve multi-purposes, and we've presented many examples of historians who have had successful careers outside of academia. So that raised a lot of interest with our members. Of course, any announcement regarding prizes are of interest, given that most of our members write history and they want to be aware of what prizes are out there. And the same goes with any job offer that we post on our website. We also put it on Twitter and Facebook, given that a lot of historians are always looking for work, of course, and that has been helpful, I think, to publicize it on social media. There are software out there that can help us as well keep track of what's happening and what works and what doesn't. Storify is one that's been used by members to capture and report conversation that occur during Congress based on our hashtags. And we can also archive those stories so that it can guide us in the future in determining what we should be doing on social media. These are some examples. Even though this news was a few months old by the time we posted it, and by that I mean that the CHA McDonald Prize winner was announced at our annual meeting, but that prize always wins the Governor General Award for Scholarly Research. So we posted it when the event occurred earlier this month, in November, sorry. And again, people were interested to know what was happening there. So we got quite a bit of feedback on that. And you know, when you think about it, for example, we almost got 10,000 reaction for the usefulness of a history degree post that we had. And given that we're a 1,000-member organization, you can appreciate the impact it has. These are the tweets that I've been posting since we opened the account in 2012, and as you can see, the activity increases every year. Most of it in the first half of the year, where we're gearing up for our annual meeting. In the fall as well, we get a bit more activity, given that we announced the prizes, the call for papers for our annual meeting of the following year. And depending on what happens as well in the historical community, that will affect the number of tweets that I do. And you can see there's a bit of a dip in late September, October, because I was away in those 2 months. So the activity was a bit less then. In order to prepare a campaign on social media, I do prepare messages ahead of time so that I'm not tripping over myself when the time comes to announce various activities that we do here at the CHA. Prize competitions, the call for papers, like I mentioned, and our membership campaign, which is very crucial, of course, to our existence. And we've already begun this next year's campaign on November 15th, and again, that was posted widely on social media. Now, repetition and multitude of messages. I find that to reach out to our members and to the public at large, one kind of message is not enough. So if I just send emails, if I just blog something, or if I only use my listserv, I get less traction than I would if I use social media as well. So I have to target specific audiences, so I don't always send the 3 messages to everybody. So I've become more careful about what I do because, you know, there's a slight difference between being proactive and being a pest to our members and the public. So I maintain a fine balance with that. And I try to be as precise and concise in my header, in my messages as I can be, given that people's attention span is short and I just want to grab their attention. And so that, you know, I don't have to tell the whole story on social media, for example. People can do that when they visit our website. Now, Congress is the central focus of our activity every year because we hold our annual meeting within it. And we have found over the years that the more people are familiar with it, the greater the attendance we'll have. Now, of course, the location counts for a lot, but I think that we've been successful in attracting members who never came before by circulating news and about the event well ahead of time, and especially how it functions. So, for example, in the last 2 years, we have had someone create a guide to the CHA annual meeting. It is prepared, I would say, a few weeks before Congress, so that we can explain to our members how things work at Congress, where you can book your hotels, where you can take advantage of the Federation's code for a reduced price for flights, how you can present at the CHA annual meeting, the difference between a communication or presentation and a poster session, and all that. And part of the guide contains, of course, the means by which people can communicate on social media during Congress. We also encourage people to go to social media and share their experience outside of the guide. We publish an annual meeting program every year, of course, and in it we tell people where and how they can communicate during Congress. You'll see our hashtags are there every year, our Facebook and Twitter account, and I see that I'm missing the Congress hashtag, so I'll be sure to add it to this year's program or next year's program.
Yes, please.
Because we do, we often have converging interest during Congress, and we often cooperate with the Federation to host panels and and spread the news. So in order to enhance our presence online, we also have 2 graduate students who are designated to tweet during Congress, one in French, one in English, because we are a bilingual organization and we certainly want to maintain our presence on the web in both languages. This has been a tremendous help because when Nicola talked about ambassadors and friends of the society or the association, but then we have a lot of our members who are eager to participate online and to share their experience during our annual meeting. And as well, we've added a program app to a social media kit. And it's been tremendous to have it in place in the last couple of years. Because those who download the app, and I would say there'd be about 25% of our members who attend our annual meeting do download the app, but they generate an inordinate amount of tweets during Congress. So it's been very useful for us to increase our presence online and to make it known that we are having our annual meeting. And it's been very good because we have the app ready at least a month before Congress so that people are also aware of other events that are taking place even before our annual meeting, but events that are history related. For example, this year in Toronto, the Labour History Committee held an event on a Sunday before the Monday when our annual meeting started, and it was one of the most downloaded event during our annual meeting, and I'm sure that it increased the attendance at that event. Again, this is the cover page of our annual meeting program and also the app. Finally, I would say that doing things in a timely manner, it really does work. For example, like long gone are the days when, even when I began working at the CHA, where I could attend Congress, come back to the office a few days after the annual meeting, and then post news on who had won the prizes that year. But now people want to know instantly what's happening, and then, and people at the prize ceremonies tweet on the spot, so they know that everybody knows what's happening. So as soon as the prize ceremonies is done, for example, I'll tweet the slate of all the prize winners and all that, so that people are aware of it instantly. And again, I think the proof is in the pudding. At a time when Humanities is certainly feeling the pinch at universities, we've been able to increase our membership this past year, 5%, which is it's been very good at a time when most humanities associations are losing membership, or at least having a hard time retaining their members. So I think that social media is crucial for us now, and that we'll continue using it certainly in the foreseeable future. Thank you, Nicola.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michel, for sharing CHA's lessons learned. I think we've said enough, though, now. We'll take questions from our viewers. We are on schedule and have 15 minutes left. Please send your questions via the chat box, the question box located in the top right of your screen. If you've closed it, use the orange arrow to reopen it, and you'll be able to type your question right there. You can also email us at membership@ideas-ed.ca, and we are monitoring that as we speak. We actually have a couple of questions that have already come in, so I think we can begin. The first question might be best for Michel. For board members whose role, for board members who are largely Sorry, one second, the question disappeared. For an association in which all of the board members are volunteers, who handles social media?
So yeah.
A board member whose role, I'll read the whole question there.
Yes,
for a board member whose role it is, or a social media coordinator who is paid? Question mark.
So I think we've both explained it a bit during our presentations. We have students who are doing it. We have a lot of members who are doing it voluntarily, and I do it as well. So it's a mix and max. And so whatever works best, I think, is useful, yeah. And I think that associations of my size, we can't afford to hire somebody to do it on the spot. Although I'm assuming that cost would be, it wouldn't be too prohibitive to do so.
Okay, and it's not our situation, so I can't speak to that. Because in our case, we do use our corporate account. We do take volunteers, but we typically have them tweet and promote, tweet and retweet as themselves. We introduce them, but we don't actually share we have the luxury of not needing to share our actual platform with them. Another question that we've got here is, can you explain ad buys and how does it work? So we're new to this, but we did do it at Congress, as I mentioned. And the reason we did it is that we did it in Facebook and Twitter. These are, as I mentioned before, presented as free, but they are for profit. In a recent social media class that I took, I was slightly alarmed to hear that 97% of Facebook revenue is actually from advertising. And because they're for profit, their search algorithms are set up to favor material that's boosted by ad buys. So it actually completely makes sense. And we decided to try it. So that you have a sort of a dollar value in mind, we spent $300 at Congress 2017. So we're not talking large amounts of money. We do not need to create, it's a slight misnomer, ad buys are not necessarily creating ads. It's boosting your own material through what they call a campaign. So we allocated $200 to Facebook, $200 to Facebook and $100 to Twitter, and we created campaigns within those platforms. So we set our budget ceiling, and it's not dangerous in the sense that you set the ceiling, you set that in the platform, and once you run out of budget, it simply stops boosting. So you can't go over budget, you don't have to worry that you're going to lose money, you just set that ceiling and then you work within it. So you identify the funds allocated, then you pay basically a price per view of the boosted material. It varies by time of day, by traffic. There is no answer to exactly how much each view costs you because it actually fluctuates, whether it's day or night or that sort of thing. You identify let's say in Facebook's case, once you set your campaign, you identify the blogs that you'd like to be part of it, or the posts that you'd like to be part of your campaign, they call it. You can then check at the end of each day the progress and the clicks through each of those blogs in the campaign. You can remove them or add to them. We typically had 5 or 6 on any given day that we were boosting through the ad buy. And once we hit the ceiling, we simply end it. Our budget actually lasted us all through Congress, so it was money well spent, and we saw that the blogs that were boosted received 4 to 5 times the views of the other posts. So it was actually very interesting to watch and experience, and we'll be playing with it some more. We are not huge experts on it just yet, but it was very satisfying to see, and it is basically playing into the fact that these are for-profit platforms and we need to play their game to be part of their process and to do well in their search engine work. So I think we'll move on to the next question. Another question we've got here is on English and French tweeting. Do we have tweeters, separate tweeters, doing both languages? Well, ideally, we have tweeters who are bilingual. When we don't, which is sometimes the case, depending who we've got, we have staff monitoring our account and retweeting them and providing the translation. So because they're not tweeting under our account, we may simply retweet them and add the translation to their tweet. If they are tweeting something interesting that we would like to see only in the one language, that's okay as well. For example, we have a schedule for our on-site tweeters where we schedule basically their whole day. If they're in a unilingual session and they're tweeting in the language of the session, we don't actually worry about them tweeting in both languages. It's not a good use of our time to try to translate everything. We have to respect that the session is in English, and that's where the tweets will be on that day. If they're tweeting about something general, such as an art exhibit, a theatrical exhibition, or a theatrical performance that we'd like to have pushed out in both languages, then we will ask them to submit in the one language, and we'll retweet for them.
Well, the CHA has a bilingual policy, so that anything that originates within our office is always in both languages.
Okay, great. Okay, we've got another question here. What do we have? Do you want to pick one?
Yeah, I could say that what's the best tool to stay in contact during the actual days of Congress? Hashtags. That's definitely the way to go. Anything that you hashtags with the Congress handle, then it'll spread around.
Yes, I would agree. We also use hashtags. The good part about hashtags and Twitter is that a user can, if they click on any hashtag within any tweet, Twitter will automatically filter all of the tweets that have happened in recent hours with that hashtag. So they can very quickly see a conversation around a certain issue by clicking on those hashtags. And then also, because the individual tweeters' handles are right there, if they become interested in what someone is saying about that topic, they can click on that handle, and then immediately it'll filter everything that that person has been saying or that organization has been saying in the last hours on Twitter. So it's a really fast way as for your followers to watch what's happening.
Okay, maybe Nicola, if I could, I'll reply to Enrique's question about the online app that we use for the program. It's called My Events app, and it's a bit pricey, but you can sign a contract whereby the third year of the contract will be that much less to buy. I would say that it's well worth the money if you have the means to do it, because it saves on programs that we have to print, because not everybody comes to get their printed program now, and you just simply download the app.
Okay. Okay, I have another question here. How do you choose influencers? How much do you pay influencers? Would you like to go first, Michel, or?
Oh, actually, it's easy. For us, we oftentimes have members within our council or the board, and especially students who are avid tweeters and Facebook users. So we don't pay anybody because we found that we haven't had the need to do so in the past.
I will second that. We did not pay our influencers. The idea is that these are people within your community, but with perhaps different circles of followers that are going to be your allies. They are typically not looking to get paid. They're typically people who are attending the event anyway and will be tweeting anyway. So as to how we chose them, we actually used the hashtag Congress hashtag to find them. We were looking at people who were already tweeting about Congress well in advance. We checked the number of followers that they had, and we took into consideration the range of topics that they were interested in. And then we approached them. We approached them through traditional means, email, so that we could explain our purpose. And then once they agreed to serve as ambassadors, we then began to provide them material. So once a week we would mail them through email text for tweets, text for Facebook posts, and accompanying images sized to the right size for those platforms, and they could just cut and paste them and do it themselves. And it allowed us to control the messaging to an audience that we didn't at that time have access to, but we drew in more of an audience through their assistance. And afterwards we thanked them. Another thing you could do is give them some incentives. If you've got perhaps if you're concerned that they're not going to be interested, you could offer a discount for a future event. You could offer other incentives. You could get creative there, but I don't think typically they're looking for compensation. Okay. Hi, I'm wondering if you have experience with Buffer, and how would you compare it to Hootsuite for analytics and ease of use? This is not one that I have experience with.
Yeah, me neither.
It's something that we could possibly look at and get back to you on. I won't be able to answer that one today.
Now I have a question here from Alicia regarding the post that reached 9,600 people. Now we didn't boost the post, Alicia. It's just a matter, I think, of interest of historians in general to know that, well, just to confirm the fact that, you know, historians can do more than history. We become great writers over time. We can analyze and dissect information and all that. And that website that we created, I think, was probably of great interest to history departments, universities in general, faculties, and all that. So, yeah, it worked out well for us, that one, for sure.
Okay. Here we have a question. It says, we are a new organization starting out. What inexpensive tools can we use to analyze social media analytics? So here I would say a very good tool would be Hootsuite. It's the one that we currently use. It is not expensive. At its lowest level, it's in the $10 per month range, and it does provide a nice dashboard at that level. Of course, you can upsell, or they will try to upsell for more detail. But at that lowest level, you can still gather a lot of information. You can still create public and private lists for monitoring issues and specific groups of people as discussed. I would say that would be a really good one. And then Google Analytics, if you set yourself up for an account, that is actually free of charge. So that, again, there are fancier versions that you could buy or purchase, but I would say those would be the two that I would recommend.
Yeah, and you can also start with Twitters and Facebooks. They have analytics, so that would give you an idea to start with. It's free, of course, and it gives you an idea of, you know, what you should do and what you shouldn't, and it's got great information within it. So
yes, I agree. Okay, we've got. Thanks very much for the useful information presented here. I wonder whether there are any concerns about the ads that might appear next to the organization's name on social media. The ads that appear next to the social media's name. I actually don't have a good answer for that. That's one that I'd like to come back to you on. I can see who is asking the question, so I will follow up with you directly after the event to follow up on that question. Sorry about that.
Okay, now there's a question here for me about the program app that we're using and what we can do with it. Well, within it, there's you can do all sorts of things. Like I can announce a specific event automatically. I program it so that people who've downloaded the app will know, you know, let's say an hour ahead of time that this keynote is happening and where. They can have favorites within their phones so that once they look at the program over and they'd like to go to specific sessions, they can make it their favorite, and again they'll be made aware that it's happening when and where. If there's a change of location for a specific session before, and that's happened, I'm sure, frequently for you as well, then I can tell our members that there's been a change in the location of the session, as opposed to chasing people around to go put notices on doors. And that, again, it's been very helpful. I really like that app. It tells you how many people have downloaded it, what they've done with it, which session was most tweeted or circulated or downloaded. It's a great tool.
Okay, well, we do have a few outstanding questions, and we can monitor those and answer you individually after the session, but for now, it's actually time to wrap up. Thank you all for joining us for the webinar. Very special thank you to Michel Duquet for his work on this peer-to-peer membership event and for sharing lessons learned from the perspective of CHA. Please fill out the very short survey, 5 questions, that will come to you at the end of this webinar and also by email today. The slides and the webinar will both be posted to the Federation website, so feel free to rewatch it or share it with your colleagues. Have a great day, everyone. Bonne journée à tous.